there everybody, it's Mark Crowley. I'm back with another video. Now this is kind of a how to add computer toning video, except it's not even really that because this is just my method and I really don't want to put it out there as something necessarily to be emulated. But I have had a lot of people requesting over the years some sort of a video that gives you my thoughts on computer toning, my method, and so here it is. I hope you enjoy it. Now I decided instead of trying to do some sort of screen capture thing to just point the video camera at my video screen so you can still see my goofy hands every once in a while and give it that personal touch. But here we have the original page, except of course it's been scanned in to the computer. So I'm going to splice in right now a little video shot of the original inked Bristol board paper so that you can see what the starting point actually is. Okay, so here's the actual artwork, and I just wanted you to see that it's really not that big. It's just under 6 inches from side to side. When you see it on the computer screen, of course, it looks much larger because I've zoomed in on it. But I wanted people to understand how this started. Ink on Bristol board, kind of like a card stock, available in pretty much any art store. So let's go ahead and get back into the computer toning. Okay, so now I'm going to walk you through the various steps that I took towards adding tone to this particular panel. Of course, when it first comes in, it looks like a coloring book or something. You know, it's very, very unfinished. The first thing that I did was to take this area of the alleyway, separate it out, and add a bit of tone. Basically you get a solid little area there, but you may notice that there's a little bit of lightness right here and right here. So I'm going to show you how I did that. I'm using my selection tool here to create a little area, a little rectangle of tone right here, just as a sample. And so now I'm going to this eraser tool, which I've set to a kind of a brush setting, and every time I click the mouse, it erases a little bit of it away. So that is how I achieved that area of lightness right there, very much done by hand, pointing and clicking. Let's get rid of that. Don't want this going off to the printing press with this big weird looking rectangle on it. Let's go on to the next layer, but I think what I'm going to do is allow myself a little break between each one of these, just in case I flub something, so that I can, you know, reshoot individual parts of this video. Okay, so we've come down to the next layer here. Now, those of you who don't understand Photoshop or have no experience with it, they allow you to create layers of tone. It's sort of like sheets of glass, you know, and you can work on individual layers. So this is a separate layer, and what I did is add a little bit of gradation. I wanted it to get a little darker up at the top of that area, and so that is exactly what I did. I'm going to show you again over here off to the side. I've separated off a sort of a rectangular area here, and I'm going to what's called the gradient tool. And I don't know if this is going to be showing up, but basically I'm moving my cursor over here. I click down, I hold it, you know, and then drag across. And the darkest area will be on the left, and the lightest area on the right. And that's it's as simple as that. Those of you who saw my you know, old school screen toning video a couple of weeks ago will understand, you know, how much easier it is, or how much, you know, control you have here to keep manipulating and playing around with things. It is faster, of course, but I think maybe more importantly, you have so much more flexibility to try different things and before settling on what you think is best. So that's basically what I did there, and you're going to see me do more gradation stuff later on the other layers. Let's move on, in fact, to one right now. Now this one is going to be very subtle. In fact, probably the most subtle thing that you see here, a very minor adjustment that I did here. I added just a little bit of gradation to this upper area of these buildings. So focus your eyes on this spot right here and see if you can see the addition of tone there. And that really, I think, part of it was to get this sign to pop forward. Speaking of the sign, this is Sugar Rush. Those of you who saw my Japan random video, I did say that, you know, I put an Easter egg in here of Sugar Rush. I needed something to put on this sign here, and I thought, why not? Put some nonsensical reference to the Japanese edition of Wreck-It Ralph. So anyway, that's why I added a little bit of gradation. I wanted this to pop forward, I think was the main purpose of that. Let's go on to the next layer. One thing that I like to do when I'm toning is to use dark silhouettes in the foreground to pull objects closer to the viewer. So I decided this truck here was going to get its own dark silhouette, and just the side of this truck over here would get a little added darkness, and so that's what I did right there. And this is pretty flat right here. I'm pretty sure I did not go in and erase any of that, so I just left that as a flat. But already it starts to pop forward, right? This one I did, in fact, isolate it and then go back with my erasing tool to lighten it up quite a bit. And so yeah, that's basically one thing that I do a lot. I don't know about other people how much they do that, but I'm constantly sort of silhouetting certain areas. And one of the nice things, I guess I'll take a moment to show this. This is a 40% level of opacity. But let me show you how Photoshop would allow me to make this darker just by moving, the little sliding control mechanism across all the way to jet black if I wanted to. Or indeed, you can take it all the way down to a very pale level of opacity. Of course, before I stop, I should go back to 40%, which is what I really decided would work best. Let's go ahead and move on to the next layer. This is another quite simple one. I decided that the road logically should be a different color from the sidewalk, and so let's go ahead and show what I did there. I do have to admit it's a little weird. I don't think this line is not lining up with that line. So the sidewalk sort of goes a little diagonal. That's why I had to do that. Maybe better not say anything more about that, but you get the idea. Sometimes the inker, me, makes mistakes. So anyway, that's basically all that I did on that layer. Let's move on to the next one. Now on this layer, we're going to begin to get into a little more of the fine-tuning in terms of adding tone. Some of you may notice another Easter egg here, the Instacup truck, featured prominently in Brody's Ghost Book 1. Don't attach too much meaning to that. It's not like, oh my goodness, it returns. I just needed to put a truck there, and I thought it would be fun to bring back the old Instacup truck. But anyway, clearly this one needed some toning, and then various other areas needed a bit of light toning, and so that's what I did there. And just so you know, that's a 10% opacity, so very pale. And that just begins to separate out certain areas to add a little bit of depth to the illustration. In fact, the next layer is going to kind of continue this trend of pinpointing individual areas and adding further tone. Okay, so this is still pretty subtle stuff, but I decided to go in and darken up certain individual bits. So the lower half of the truck and other areas throughout the illustration are starting to get additional tone. I'm going to go, I'll click that off again. I'm like hiding that layer, right, and bring it back, and then you can start to see the different things that I did there. So basically, in my approach, I start with the big bold things and then gradually work my way toward the finer details. Speaking of which, I have yet another layer devoted to just that. So again, still pretty subtle stuff here, but I am going to reveal the next layer. Boom. And basically, yeah, just furthering the more little areas of tone that I get in there, the more solid things appear. Again, I'll make this disappear and pay attention, for example, to this area inside the truck window. Boom, it gets a little darker there, and that starts to push that back. In fact, I continued to work on that area in another layer, and we're coming up to the final. Well, nearly the final. There's one more layer beyond this. But this will be the big one that's a little more bold and will sort of finish things off for this. So a lot of these other tones have been at a pretty low opacity, 10% thereabouts. This one is at 30%, so it is a little darker makes a little more of a dramatic difference. And you can see that I got some tone in onto Instacup. The Shugarash got its little darkness. This is probably the most important basic layer of tone in terms of finishing the illustration. I'll take it away, put it back in. You know, my approach is fairly impressionistic. I'm not obsessive about making sure that the tone stays absolutely within the lines. Sometimes I'm deliberately allowing it to stray a little bit outside of the lines. And as I said, there's one final thing, and this is quite a subtle thing, but I want you to look at this building that's in the distance, the black lines there. And I have a layer that I call the mist layer, and it really is, it's white on top of the black lines that causes that line area to go a bit gray. And in fact, this whole back area now, I realize, not just the building, but the whole back area of the alleyway gets misted out. That's what I call it. Misting. I misted it out, and also Instacup, the lettering there. I decided to put a little mist on. Why? I'm not sure. I guess it just makes it look more like something printed on there, to my eyes anyway, rather than something that should be calling a whole lot of attention to itself. And that, my friends, is basically it. My approach to adding toning to an illustration. Now, I've been reluctant to do very many videos like this over the years, just because I don't think it makes for very dramatic video. If you had actually seen me pointing and clicking and gradually filling in areas of tone, it would have been even more sleep-inducing. So count yourself lucky that I just kind of walked you through a panel that was already done. The actual experience of toning in is very slow, painstaking, and really probably incredibly dull to watch in video form. Anyway, that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Just a quick little shout out for my new Instagram. Finally got on there, and if you were looking for me on Instagram and thought you had found me some time ago, that was actually not me. It's someone else who had got to the name Mark Curley before me. Now we got the real Mark Curley. It's called Mark Curley Real, suitably enough. And that is the only real Mark Curley Instagram. If you are into that site, go ahead, check it out. I'm going to be adding, hopefully, new photos there every day, or as often as I can anyway. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up. Thanks so much for watching it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another one real soon.